Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to build a really practical, India-specific savings system, one that actually works. We're going to use hard data and expert analysis to put together a plan that's designed specifically for how things are in India right now in 2026.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with the numbers, shall we? According to RBI data, the average Indian household, well, they save somewhere between 10 to 15% of their income. But what's the recommended target? It's a solid 20 to 30%. Now, that difference, it's not just a number on a chart. It's a huge savings gap, and it's leaving millions of people financially vulnerable.
And here's what that gap looks like in the real world. This is the immediate risk. A staggering 76% of Indians, that's literally 3 out of every 4 people, can't pull together 1 lakh rupees for an emergency without having to borrow. That is a statistic that should really make all of us stop and think. So all of this is the core of what we're calling India's savings emergency. But look, to solve it, we first have to get on the same page about what saving actually means. Because honestly, it's a concept that a lot of us get wrong.
Right, so here's the absolute key. Saving is not about hoping there's some cash left over at the end of the month. It's not about leftovers. It's a deliberate, proactive choice you make first. You got to think of it as the most important bill you pay every month, a non-negotiable payment to your future self.
And it's also super important to get the difference between saving and investing straight. They're not the same thing. Savings, that's your safety net. It's for immediate needs, your emergency buffer. Investing, on the other hand, is when you put those savings to work for long-term growth. You absolutely have to nail saving first before you can even think about investing effectively. See, without a solid savings habit, any unexpected bill, a medical issue, a car repair, it can turn into a full-blown crisis almost overnight. It's what pushes families into those nasty, high-interest debt cycles that are just so hard to escape. And honestly, it's a really worrying trend we're seeing grow all over the country. Okay, so that brings us to the next big question. Why is saving in India so uniquely challenging? There are some very specific pressures here that you just won't find in many other places.
You've got these 4 big pressures, and they're constantly working against your savings. First, there's persistent inflation, just eating away at your money's value. Then there's the lack of a real social safety net, which just raises the stakes for everything. You also have all the festival and social spending that can totally derail your budget. And finally, the sheer ease of UPI and BNPL just makes it so easy to overspend without thinking. But here's the good news, and it's a really powerful shift in how you think about this. The very same technology that makes spending so frictionless, well, we can actually use it to make saving just as effortless and automatic. We can turn the tables. And that brings us to the solution, the practical part. It's a 10-step system designed specifically to fight back against those pressures and help you thrive in India's financial world of 2026.
All right, listen up. If you only remember one thing, just one, from this entire explainer, please make it this first step. I'm not kidding, it's the single most powerful action you can take.
So what is it? Automate your savings on salary day. The moment you get paid, go into your banking app and set up a standing instruction to move 20%, or whatever you can manage, of your salary into a totally separate savings account. This takes the decision, the willpower, completely out of your hands. Because if you never see that money in your main account, trust me, you won't miss it. Okay, after that, we focus on plugging those hidden leaks. The little things that drain your income without you even noticing. So for non-essential stuff, apply the 30-day rule. If you still really want that thing after a month, then maybe buy it. Also, every few months, do a quick audit of all your subscriptions and just cancel the ones you aren't using. Another big one is just cooking at home a few extra times a week. And finally, build what's called a sinking fund for those big, irregular expenses so they don't catch you by surprise.
And then we've got to build the right mindset. This is huge. So really internalize that pay yourself first idea. Make it your mantra. Also, start tracking every single cash transaction every day. It's amazing what you'll find. Then, try to increase your savings by just a tiny bit, maybe 2% every quarter. And whenever you get a raise, save it. Save every increment before you even have a chance to get used to it. And finally, you absolutely need a separate break glass in case of emergency only account. Okay, so what does this all look like in the real world with actual numbers? Let's break it down for different salary levels. This chart really shows you the power of just being consistent. It doesn't matter if you're putting away 2,000 rupees a month or 30,000.
That consistent, automated saving builds some serious, life-changing wealth over time. Now, for these numbers, we're assuming a 12% annual return, which is a pretty realistic long-term expectation from something like equity investments. But of course, you always have to remember that returns are never guaranteed.
And just remember, saving an extra 54,000 rupees a year doesn't have to come from a huge pay raise. So often, it comes from these really small, almost unnoticeable changes in your habits. Like we talked about, canceling a couple of subscriptions and maybe eating out a little less. All right, so knowing what to do, that's only half the battle. Now we need to talk about what not to do. Let's look at the critical mistakes that can completely destroy your savings habit before it even gets started.
So what are the biggest traps? What are the things that stop even high-income earners from actually building any real wealth?
Mistake number one, and it is by far the biggest one, lifestyle inflation. It's that habit of letting your spending expand the second your income does. You get a raise, you immediately start looking for a bigger apartment. You got a bonus, time for a new phone. To build real wealth, you have to consciously break this cycle and widen that gap between what you earn and what you spend. The next big mistake is ignoring those small, daily expenses, the little leaks. They seem so harmless on their own. A chai here, an auto ride there, but when you add them all up, they can create this huge, untracked hole in your budget. We're talking 5, maybe even 10,000 rupees a month just disappearing. And then there's maybe the most common mistake of all. It's treating saving like an afterthought. That whole, I'll just save whatever's left over at the end of the month strategy. Let me tell you, that strategy has never worked for anyone, ever. Because spending will always expand to fill up whatever income is available. You have to flip it. Save first, then spend what's left. And let's not forget the bonus mistake here, borrowing money to maintain your lifestyle. Using high-interest credit cards or buy now, pay later for your everyday expenses, that is the absolute fastest way to destroy your net worth. You're not just failing to save, you're actively digging a hole. You're putting compounding, the most powerful force in finance, to work against you. So, what's the one thing you need to take away from all this? It's simple. Start now. Today. Don't wait for the first of the month. Don't wait for your next raise. Right after this, log into your banking app and set up that automatic transfer. Seriously, it is the single most powerful step you can take to close that savings gap and start building real, lasting wealth for yourself.